I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
I'm not going to risk everything for someone who doesn't believe in anything. Talk about perfect words for two of the most perfect episodes of Hulu's Ramy Season 2, Episodes 9 and 10, as we discuss both of them right here. Episode 9, Uncle Nassim. Episode 10, You Are Naked in Front of Your Sheikh. Talk about one big way to finish one amazing season. Of course, we have the panel in the building. To my right, Nikki Bailey is amongst us,
Hey,
the
y'all.
spiritual leader of us all. And of course, we have Amir Yas, as he takes us in the right direction, bringing an amazingly unique point of view. And finally, last but not least, Mina Wahab.
Thanks, Turan.
Put the emphasis on the right part of that syllable. Thank you for being our cultural attaché. We've gone over all 10 episodes of Ramy. We've watched it together. Can we all give one big sigh of relief? Like, ooh,
we're done.
Yeah, strong. Yeah. It wasn't just, that was a sigh. I felt like I just lived another person's life because we really have, as we saw the semi-autobiographical point of view of Ramy, we saw this perspective that was extremely unique in every single way. What was everyone's overall opinions of episodes 9 and 10 as a whole?
I loved how the show ended. I mean, it was really hard to watch. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely got extremely emotional and triggered at a lot of the scenes, especially episode 9 was really hard for me. But I think that this show ended really beautifully. I think, you know, we see in the final episode just like Ramy's character arc and how he's kind of like back to square one. He hasn't really shown a lot of growth, but he has in certain areas. But I'd love to get into that later.
We're going to talk about so much of that. Amir Yas, what were your opinions?
I was kind of surprised about Uncle Nassim, and in all honesty, I felt like it was doing a little too much. I think that this season is take on, you know, you had the jerking off, and now you have the gay uncle and the sleeping with your cousin. It was just taking on a little too much. So I was actually kind of disappointed with how it turned out.
Interesting point of view. As I said, Amir Yas is always good for that. And of course, Nikki, how did you feel about both episodes?
I felt like there was a tsunami of content that was too much to process in 2 tiny little episodes. Like I felt like I needed more time to go to all of those places. And so I feel a little emotionally overwhelmed by the last 2 episodes, to be honest.
Sounds like you need another season, Nikki. That's what it really comes down to, because hopefully we will be getting a season 3. Ramy, as a show and as a comedian and as a person, does not give you a moment's breath to feel comfortable. Uncle Nassim's tale was actually foreshadowed. We saw much of it when we were discussing Dina. If you remember, Uncle Nassim said, I was confused. He's brought that up several times throughout all the episodes. So it wasn't completely out of nowhere. It was definitely a huge surprise to see it on screen, and brings up definite conflict between being Middle Eastern and being sexually fluid, homosexual, or any of the aforementioned, which we're going to get into as we discuss episode 9, Uncle Nassim. We're going to break it down as this. Uncle Nassim's habit, date with Aisha, and I threw habit in air quotes, date with Aisha, we get this really awkward date that wasn't a date. We're workout partners. We get a family dinner, but we don't just get one, we get 2. Of course, we get a family dinner that was awkward with the Ramy's family, and we get another family dinner that was extremely intense with his friend Yasser. So we get a little more of Uncle Nassim, and we finally get him going over to dinner with his workout buddy, and we will get into all of that. Let's discuss Uncle Nassim's habit. Let's begin with Amir Yas. We see Uncle Nassim. He's sitting in the steam room. 2 people come in. 1 person leaves. The next thing you know, one of the people slides over next to Uncle Nassim and performs what seems to be fellatio. Amir Yas,
Yeah, what I liked about that turn was the interesting part of when he tried to get close to him, then Uncle Nassim kind of like shimmied over. I thought that was really good writing. But again, like the where it fumbles, where you don't have a queer writer, is there in the way that you're just doing the stereotypical steam room. It's a little like played out as the gay trope. So I was just kind of let down by that. But again, I love the trajectory of that relationship with that guy from the steam room. So I think that was really great. But again, if you had a queer writer on staff, they could have maybe finessed that a little more.
I completely understand where you're coming from. I do want to say, as a person who knows a little bit about this particular episode behind the scenes, I'm pretty sure that Ramy actually utilized a real story of somebody and
Okay.
utilized it and brought it to screen. And
Sure.
I believe it was a meeting place at the Crunch in West Hollywood. Just to let you know.
Oh, sure. No,
So
it happens. It literally happens, but it's very played out.
it's
He could have
played
been
out
a bit more original.
because it happens, but I think it's because it happens that it got brought to the screen. Mina, what were your
Sure.
thoughts?
Um, at first I was very surprised, but then it hit me like on a different level because of just people that I know. And I just felt like so heartbroken just seeing like this play out on screen. I just think it's so sad when you can't like be your authentic self and when like there's so much that just tears you up inside, where you feel like your family will never accept you.
It's very difficult. I can only imagine how this must feel. I hated telling my dad that I was half black. It was a very difficult moment in my life. I understand where it's coming from, but this is obviously unimaginable for many. Nikki, how did it make you feel?
I was raised with some very public secrets about people who in my community who were gay but married and closeted and whatever. And I got to witness firsthand the depth of loneliness that the people who are living that way feel. And so I really I felt like you mean heartbroken for him and seeing how he, like Ramy, trying to fill the need with food. I saw, I at some point Ramy bought some more candy and I was like, oh, we back to this. So like like I was like, he's trying to fill the need, and the food is a way that people try to fill that hole. But it's such a sad kind of loneliness because it means you can't be who you are to you or to anyone else, even to God. And so it touched my heart in a very personal way.
The to God part is something we will definitely need to touch on more. I love how you brought that up because it did seem to be a conflict as we saw with Yasser. But before we get there, we actually went on a date with Aisha. Aisha had no idea we were going on a date. She just thought she was getting mentored or possibly getting a job. And Uncle Nassim was full on date mode. Mina, how did you like that date?
I felt like because of the intro we got to Uncle Nassim where we saw what happened in the steam room, I started piecing things together and I was like, oh, is he like I couldn't tell like is he bi or is he overcompensating for being in the closet and putting up this very like, ultra masculine what a man should look like front and acting like in this stereotypical fashion because you can tell he doesn't do anything with her, even though he makes inappropriate remarks. And even Dina in episode in season 1 was like, ill, like Uncle Nassim is so misogynistic. And I really do think that, there are people in the gay community who like they're either, self-hating or they mask like their feelings by putting on this ultra masculine front so that they'll never be discovered. And I think that part is sad, though I definitely understand it. And I just that whole interaction, like, I don't know, it bothered me, but I really have a lot of empathy for Uncle Nassim now, and I love that he's not just this one-dimensional character.
Amir Yas, have you ever been on a date with someone who didn't know they were on a date with you?
No, everyone knows when they're on a date with me. But I thought you were going to say a date with a woman. I was like, no, I haven't. I think what Mina said, which was really powerful, is about the misogyny in the gay community. There's a lot of that as well. There's a lot of femme bashing, me being feminine. I get put down by gay men a lot more than straight people because there is a dichotomy in wanting to be super hyper masculine and almost even a misogynist to women. A lot of gay men say, why is there women in the club? Like, there's a lot of misogyny in our community as well. So I love that you touched upon that. And I think Uncle Nassim is hiding in plain sight. So he's not really, I mean, hooking up people at the steam room, that can get around very quickly. So he's still doing what he needs to do, but he's doing it in such a secret way. So I think it was a story that, again, maybe because I do digest a lot of queer media, I've seen that a lot, but maybe on the level with Hulu and Ramy and Middle Eastern, it's different, but I'm here for it.
And also, people, I think this is one of those issues where people don't understand that there's a difference between identity and behavior. And so, his workout is not an identity, which is why when he's pushed to take that further, that's not something he can allow for himself. So I think I agree with you, Amir, in that it's like a very kind of like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. But I think when you occupy queer spaces, like, you and I are in queer spaces a lot. So like, we're like, yes, we've heard that story. But I think for people who aren't in queer spaces, maybe this is a new thing for them. To the idea that, and it's not that new with the down low. We've been talking about that since the 80s, right? So
sure.
So
but when that's Nikki, what the reason I brought it up, which I love that you also kind of understood what I was trying to say, maybe I didn't say it as delicately, is that it feels like it's a trope of the tortured queer character. And I guess for me personally, and this is just my own opinion, it's nothing against the show, it's just I'm tired of seeing that. I'm tired of seeing the Middle Eastern character that's broken down about being queer. And I just felt like Uncle Nassim was so much more layered. To add that, it's like you're now explaining his misogyny, and I kind of like that he stood on his own being misogynistic and a dick without being in the closet. Like, I don't think he needed that. I don't think the character needed it. That was just me.
I actually have to say that was a very well placed argument. There is a strong debate about that I'm sure is going to go on online. I still think that it was interesting that Aisha went on a date without knowing about it. I think that's a strong way to put that into a story. Is Aisha's on a date thinking she's getting mentored. Uncle Nassim, who's significantly older, has no problems thinking he's on a date with Aisha, and then sends her off. I've never seen someone break up with someone or neg someone in such a way. Sends her off, gives her cab money. It's like, I know how you feel. She was dumb.
I have had that exact scenario happen. And so I have been out with someone where I thought it was just being introduced to someone and they thought it was a date, and he gave me some cab money and I took it and had a nice night. I got me a free meal and a free cab ride. So she all right.
That's what's up. I took Amir out on a date and he didn't read any of the signs. We hung out. We went to a park stop. I'm heartbroken now that I wasn't brought up.
I guess you were in a robe though, so I thought, I was like, I don't know, I didn't know.
I was ready for the steam room, my friend. Let's talk about working out. We find that this person, Uncle Nassim's workout buddy,
Paco,
doesn't show up one day, and Uncle Nassim is fret. He is worried, and he goes searching, because this has been going on, and apparently for years. What were your thoughts on that, Nikki?
I don't know that I have new thoughts on it. I just feel for him, and I feel for the struggle that he, and I feel for the deep sense of loneliness that being forced to be in the closet, that feeling that you can't come out. I know the deep sense of how lonely and sad that is. And so it's just, every time you ask me about how I feel about it, that's going to be my answer.
I understand and appreciate that. Is that going to resonate for you as well, Amir?
Yeah, I think I'm going to just kind of piggyback off of that. Yep.
Well, I would love to know if you felt as neutral about the family dinner in which Uncle Nassim exploded seemingly on Farouk regarding the money. Amir?
I mean, again, it wasn't great that he said that, but I think when we're hurt, we lash out. And I think rage, a lot of people see rage and they're like, oh, this person's so angry. Well, no, they're just frustrated. Like, I've lashed out before when I was in the closet and I was frustrated at either people being very flamboyantly out. I used to lash out and be like, why do gay people have to be so in our face? Or, you know, I've said things about my family, like I've been aggressive. So I think that people need to be a little understanding. But the fact is, Uncle Nassim is in his 50s, late 60s. It's about time to take ownership of your behavior. I'm in my 30s. So you have to like eventually decide to grow up. And I think Middle Eastern culture, whatever you feel about it, it infantilizes men and it puts men on pedestals. And that's just, Nassim is a great example of, you know, the way that everyone kind of tiptoes around him. So, I mean, he did throw it in his face, and it's true. He did buy the house and he did buy the water bill because Farouk's not being truthful to his wife. So it's hard to feel any sympathy for either party, I think.
It also felt like he was trying to find some masculinity in that moment. Like he was trying to assert some masculinity so that there would be no question about his, you know, he's a cis hetero, you know, man. So and I'm proving it because I'm taking care of your family. So I feel like some of it was acting that out as well.
Yeah, he seemed to be emasculating Farouk. Mina, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely think when you're in a vulnerable position or you're part of a marginalized community, you find ways to reclaim power. And I think sometimes that's lashing out, sometimes it's through financial power, like whatever it may be. I just think that, you know, he was obviously hurting. I think the part about him just coming to the gym one day and not noticing where his friend was, it was kind of sad in the sense that he didn't even know his name. He's like, what's the name of that Mexican kid? And it's like, you've had obviously like an intimate relationship with this person for how long now? You haven't bothered to know their name for whatever reason. And it's almost as if he's keeping this person at arm's length because he doesn't want to acknowledge the fact that he's gay. And it's a way of like being half in, half out, not fully committed. Like even when you saw the scene with what happened, he was passively receiving the sexual act as opposed to engaging in it, almost as if like he was the one who had more power in the situation. Not to say that you're more powerful if you're on the receiving end, but it was almost as if he wasn't the one doing it. He was receiving and kind of like not fully like, oh, I'm gay and I'm here. Even when it came to like going over to his house, like he was very, very opposed to it. And I think it's so hard to like unlearn that, like, you know, you're taught for your whole life like being gay is a sin, and you grow up in like a Muslim community and you're a man and you're Arab, like what are you gonna do? Like throw away your entire identity and then feel completely isolated from the very people you grow up with just to be in a world that doesn't understand you? I think it's so difficult, and my heart goes out to anyone who experiences that.
It was definitely a very heart-wrenching, uncomfortable scene to watch. We get the family dinner where, of course, Nassim lashes out with Farouk, but then he goes and finds his friend, quote unquote, Yasser, who has a family, has Najla, has Mona, a daughter, and they haven't seen each other for a long time. We get the feeling that something has happened, and then we get the confirmation. What were your thoughts on that, Mina?
Um, you know, you could tell from the very beginning that there was something there. And, you know, some men go their whole lives like married with kids, don't admit that this is the case, like live their whole lives that way just because they're trying to preserve some sort of stability and balance in their lives because the alternate reality is too like life shattering. And I think how do you do that? Like it's easier in America, I assume, than in the Middle East, but still, it's still difficult because you have to like make entirely new connections. You're not going to force all of your family, all of your friends, all of the people you grew up with to see eye to eye with you. So the thought of like embracing this new reality is scary because you're leaving an entire world behind and risking that the people that you grew up with won't accept you for who you are. And that's like a really scary thing. So I mean that whole interaction with them, it was sad. It's like he's built this whole life and no one's addressed their feelings for one another. It's really heartbreaking.
It was very heartbreaking. Amir, how did you feel?
I felt like it was, for me, I don't think it was heartbreaking. I think it was actually a heartwarming moment because it's like he was actually being authentic with Yasser. And even when the wife saw them, I think the wife knew. I think she was allowing it to happen. And even he looked so shocked. But then when she was like, do you want to stay for dinner? Like Yasser kind of lit up. And I loved the scene where he kind of put his hand on his stomach and then he leaned over and it kind of seemed like it was going to be another blowjob. But then it was like, let's pray together, which I felt was like quite triggering because then it was like, oh, you guys are going to pray together, like pray the gay away. So for me, I was quite triggered by all of that. But I thought, again, it was a glimpse into happy times between him and Yasser. They both, you know, could probably hide a little easier without families and all of that. So I thought that was kind of a little nice to see like a softer side of Nasim.
So heartbreaking, heartwarming. Nikki, break the tie.
Complicated, right? So like Yasser, he said I had to make a choice, which to me says a couple things. One is that he may not actually have been gay; he may have been bisexual, and so chose to, you know, pursue that side of his identity.
Well said.
But also the idea that you know, the loneliness that Nasim was feeling, and that he could go someplace and get any kind of comfort, and that's what he wanted. And I can see how in that moment of let's pray, um like the comfort that he had been feeling up till that moment disappeared. Like you saw that, like he was like, all right, well, I'm not going to get the sexual connection that I want, but it's so good to be with my friend again. And then let's pray. Like there's this subtle, you know, people use prayer for all kinds of nefarious reasons, you know, like people use prayer to do all kinds of evil. And one of the evils that has been done to queer folks is that people use prayer to pray your queerness away and your gayness away, and that is one of the most devastating things that gay people deal with in religion, and to have lived your whole life and now be in your like late 50s and 60s or whatever, still struggling with that, is painful. Yeah,
It's extremely painful. What was painful was also being hit in the face by Uncle Nasim. Paco knows exactly how that feels, as Uncle Nasim went to have dinner and gets hit in the face, and Paco gets hit in the face for his advances. What were your thoughts on that scene, Amir Yas?
Can I ask you guys a quick question? Was this all happening in one night? So he went from the family dinner with the Farouks, like, and then Farouk and Mina, and then they went like, and then he went to the Yasser, and then Paco. Was all in one night.
It seems to have. I don't know about the dinner and Yasser's. Okay. However, because of the outfit that he was wearing, he tends to wear a similar outfit that seems to be his MO. So we see an outfit that's very similar at the date and at Ramy's house and at Yasser's house, and then again at Paco's house. I think the concept visually was that it all happened at the same time, and yet it didn't happen at the same time, since we hear about come over this weekend. So it was meant to confuse us with time frames.
Okay, so and at the end of the day, trauma like that doesn't matter if it happens all in one night or separated. It's going to be trauma however it comes. So I think that scene was wonderful, because if you look on Grindr, like a dating app for gay men, a lot of times some people will say no kissing, or I won't like do this, or I won't like whatever. So there's a lot of stipulations that people on the DL have, and so I think when he kissed him, he was trying to be intimate, and they had a dinner and laughed and all that. So I think that kissing him sent him over the edge, but I think if he gave him a blowjob or had sex, it would have been fine. So it was a really interesting dichotomy. And then for me, I think what was heartbreaking was him stitching his lip up and kind of starting to open up and share that, you know, I was in the military in Egypt, blah, 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 and started to open up and actually was getting excited about this guy. And then Paco was like, get out. Like, I can't do this. Like, you literally hit me and have yet to apologize or pretending it didn't happen. So I think it was sad, because I felt like he was finally letting someone in, and Paco was like, get out. And so he's eating the cake on the side of the street. And I was just like, wow, like that was painful to me to see like an old man kind of fall apart.
Eat your cake, anime. Mina.
Eat the cake.
Yeah, it was sad. I mean, I was shocked. It's like you're gonna lash out with anger. Like you're literally in a private space. Nothing can happen. You're still rejecting your identity, or like you think you may be. And I get that it's scary, but it's just like to act that way in someone's house. I couldn't believe it. And then to not apologize for it either, like threw me off. But the whole situation, even with the cake, I just feel like he has an emotional eating problem and like turns a lot to that whenever he's sad. Like Ramy, you said this earlier, Nikki, like Ramy kind of did the same thing with the gummies. That whole situation just it was sad.
I mean, especially if it all happened in one night, then he ate a lot. So we move on to episode 10. So we get this backstory to Uncle Nassim. We move on to episode 10, and voila, you are naked in front of your sheikh. And it means that almost literally, vulnerably, physically, mentally, psychologically, as we break it down as thus. Kissing cousins, we get to see the end of the relationship and what should have been new beginnings. Pet Cemetery, where Zainab opens up to Ramy in a very intimate way. Meet the fam. The family comes to dinner, but it's family we didn't expect because some cousins came from Egypt. Friendly advice. The friends are in the kitchen giving Ramy advice before his wedding ceremony. Of course, we get the Khatib, where we get the concept of the ceremony. We get pillow talk, which is Zainab and Ramy talking after consummation. That discussion, Sheikh Malik's naps, where Sheikh Malik shows up and has words for Ramy. Shadi has feelings, which projects Ramy's own Maktub. Oh man, we had so much to discuss. And of course, we ended up in Dennis's car. So Maktub which is just the destiny. It was written, or was it a conversation between Ramy and his cousin and Dennis's car? Let's discuss Kissing Cousins, shall we? So we get the bookend, we get the finale of what happened in Egypt. What were your thoughts on that, Nikki?
Well, I thought it was really interesting that we were going to end the last episode of the season on kissing your cousin again. But I knew when they went to the store and I saw the gummies in Ramy's hand, I was like, oh, nope, he about to backslide. It's about to happen. And I'm sitting here watching it. At this point, everybody in my house is home. Nobody's been watching this with me all day. And I talk to the television while I'm watching it because I'm Black and that's what we do. And and I'm yelling, Ramy, don't you, Ramy, don't you I think that it's fascinating the level of damage that Ramy can do to himself and to the people around him and still have friends and still be desired and still be loved and still be. So it's really interesting to me that he's this highly manipulative, totally toxic person with a great community.
Amir Yas, what were your thoughts?
I mean, Nikki said it so well. It's very true. He is so frustratingly toxic and negative, and everything that he said this whole season has been bullshit. Because the fact is, all his friends saw right through it. Steve saw right through it. Was like, this is all BS. And you keep pretending. And anyone that says the Westerners and this is how they do it, and he's lying in bed talking about wanting to have multiple wives. The fact is, the prophet said you can have 4 wives if you treat them equally. Impossible for a human being to treat someone equally 4 different people. So
and Ramy ain't barely working. He can't afford to take care of 4 wives.
Actually, Amir Yas, I disagree with that. If you treat all 4 like trash, you may get away with it. Nina, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I really do think Ramy is selfish, but I don't think it's intentional. I think it's so typical in the Arab culture. I don't want to badmouth my culture because there's so many things about the Arab culture that I love that I think are so amazing. I love our hospitality. I love how welcoming we are to people. I love like our values.
You love a lot of things, yes.
I love a lot of things about our culture and I don't want to badmouth the culture, but at the same time, I have to be very honest. And I think a lot of, mothers cater to their sons, and it's like, God forbid we affect our sons' egos. God forbid we don't give them what they want. God forbid we don't tell Dina to clean her brother's room even though he's a fully functioning adult who can clean his own room. Who cares if he's upset? That's his responsibility. We cater and we nurture and we do all these things for our boys, and then they turn into these entitled people who can't fend for themselves and who can't do things on their own, and then we constantly have to walk around their egos because it's so fragile. I'm not saying that's about all Arab men. I'm just saying that this is a trend that I've witnessed, and I don't think it's okay. And I think that we need to start treating men and women equally within the Arab community. I don't think it's fair at all that we set different standards for men and women. But I do think Ramy is very entitled. I think there's a huge discrepancy between how he's treated versus how his sister is treated. From season 1 until now, we see that again and again, even in the micro interactions. And I'm just like really tired of seeing him, try to do good And I don't think he was fake about it the whole time. I definitely think that he really was trying, and I think sometimes you have to fake it in order to make it. But then he just takes all these steps back. And the one thing that I can't stand is that he's not accountable for his actions. He's not accountable, and he thinks that being honest is being 100% transparent, and that absolves him of all responsibility. And that's what I can't stand.
Well, my thoughts.
Black folks, sorry.
Cool.
I was gonna say
Please, Nikki.
black folks have a saying that black mothers raise their daughters and mother their sons, and so you end up with these with a lot of men who fail to launch, and so are kind of always in this childlike state of I'm a man, but I must be taken care of, and then women are always sort of responding around that. And I also wonder though how much or if any of Ramy's behavior is related to his age. Like, I mean, I am a Gen Xer and I don't want to cast aspersions on the rest of your generations, but is any of this a reflection of, Gen Xers are always talking about how entitled millennials feel? Like, is any of this about his maturity level, and not just about the cultural dynamic as well?
It's interesting. Baby boomers felt the exact same way about Gen Xers and so forth. Hurt people hurt people. We get the end of the story of Ramy, which is a great thing since we were always wondering what happened with Amani in that situation. We find out in every intimate detail. We see Zainab is now opening up to Ramy and taking him to the cemetery where her mother is buried and telling him about stopping by cemeteries and praying for families throughout her life and how that reminds her of her own mother. What were your thoughts on that, Amir Yas?
Well, I first have to give huge kudos to Zainab's fashion. Honey, those hats, berets on the hijab, I was here for it.
Yeah.
So that was good. That was a good moment. And I think that she rocked it. And, even without her hijab, she looked stunning. So I was here for all of that. But I think as far as letting him in, I think that, again, she knew what she was getting into. And she actually said that very openly a couple episodes ago. I know what I'm getting into. You're on the path. Like, I get it. But the fact is, like, he messed up just like a man on the path would. But it's just unforgivable. I think what she was so upset about was the fact that this girl is on all of our photos, is all over the place. So I think Zainab did the best she could with what she was dealt.
Yeah. Nikki, how did you feel?
I flashed back to in episode 7, she said to him, I'm interested in who you are becoming and who you want to be. And I thought to myself, okay, he not finished. That's what you get when you marry for potential. And he's an immature idiot. And so I thought she handled it the way the Black woman in me was like, that's exactly what I would have done. I would have been, I probably would have been like, I'm too tired right now, but in the morning, you gonna get yours. And I knew her dad was gonna be there when he woke up in the morning. I was like, that's just not, I knew exactly that he was gonna be in the room.
Interesting. Mina, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I love exactly what you just said, Nikki, where you like you don't marry someone for potential. I think that only works when you guys are both building something and working towards something together and you're at the same like playing field. But let's be real, like Ramy was here and was still learning and she was pulling him up and teaching him. And I don't think that really works in a relationship. I think it works if you have complementary strengths that you can teach one another, but I don't really feel like Ramy had a lot to offer her other than showing her potential at how great of a teacher and how great of a nurturer she was. And that's not him being there for her. That's her mothering him. And I don't think that that's a dynamic that leads to a healthy and successful marriage or dynamic at all.
Regarding the cemetery, I just thought it was very interesting that Zainab brought Ramy there and let him inside not only her heart but her life, and that seems like something where Zainab is also a very private person. Getting to meet the family, we see the family show up, and there are 2 cousins from Egypt who Ramy had no idea were being invited. What a scene! Zainab had family there. Ramy had family there. What were your thoughts on that dynamic, Mina?
Wow, the awkwardness, like, I would die if something like that I mean, I've never done done anything like that, but I'm saying, like, I would literally die. Just it's obvious that he hasn't told anyone anything and that this is something that he's kept between him and her, and just watching that very beginning intro flashback of what happened in that hotel in Egypt, like, obviously, it is forbidden by law for a man and a woman who are not engaged to be in the same room together. That's the same thing in Iran as well. You can't be together unless you're engaged. You go to jail for something like that. It's very intense. It's very strict. And I was just like, why risk it all for someone who's not putting it on the line for you? Like my heart was pounding in that scene, and just the whole thing where she comes back into his life, you know that there's a solid connection there and that there is so much love there, but it's so complicated. And I think if you're a man, like you figure your stuff out and you address those things before getting into another relationship. You don't do that. That's not what you do. You don't leave any loose ends. That's not what a man does. It's not okay.
It was a
Tell them
very
about it, girl.
interesting-
Tell them about it.
Interesting situation. Nikki, why don't you tell us about it? How did you feel about that family meeting?
The family meeting was well, it was awkward, but I actually was a little mad that Amani came. I was like, why would you even do this to either one of you? Like, why would you? Why? And I felt like it all kind of felt a little contrived to me, and so I felt a little removed from it. Like I know it's the finale, you got to end with some drama, but come on, like
Amir Yas?
I agree. I think again, I've just been kind of let down by the season finale. I feel like I think we should have just ended it with Naseem, because I felt like it was just, I mean, obviously there was loose ends, but I felt like with the family, there was so much more we could have done. And I just feel like the cousin should have just come to the wedding then and really been a massive surprise instead of coming before. And then it's like a whole thing. And I don't know. I think she should have just been at the wedding, but I guess that's not how our culture works. So.
This
If
sounds
you guys,
like
if you guys ever watch any Egyptian dramas or soap operas, it's even more dramatic than this. So I feel like this was like nothing compared to that.
this is starting to sound like the Game of Thrones season finale. So let's get to the friendly advice. We have Steve, we have Ahmed, and we have Mo in the kitchen giving Ramy advice before he gets cold feet. What were your thoughts on that, Nikki Bailey?
Okay, I love Mo and I want to just hang out with him. I know you know him, so just pass the message along. I want to hang out with him. It was a moment where Ramy could have gotten some real help, like where he could have gotten some real advice, because he would have been told. Ahmed and Mo would have said, "You cannot tell her that." Steve would have said, "You can't get married," but they would have ignored that. But the guys would have been like, "Yo, no, don't." But so it just felt like throughout this series we've been seeing, he tells his hot boys stuff, and he didn't tell them about having sex with Amina. Anyway, I just like I said, it felt a little contrived, and it was too much to pack into this last episode. And I feel like I needed a little more time to understand all of the family dynamics. I needed a little bit more time to process, having just found out why their relationship in Egypt ended, and then she's there again. It was just too much. And I feel like they could have, I loved the Naseem episode, but I feel like they could have split episode 10 in half and given us 2 parts instead of trying to put it all into that one last episode.
Amir Yas, I see you shaking your head. Do you agree?
I do agree, because again, the Naseem stuff could have just been alluded to. I don't know if we needed a whole episode of him unraveling. I would have split it into 2 parts. And I just feel like, again, the mom inviting the cousin is very on brand for her and the culture. So I'm surprised that Ramy didn't think your cousin would come. That's very on brand for her.
Mina, what were your thoughts about the friendly advice given in the kitchen?
That was pretty infuriating, honestly. Just oh man, it's fine. You can have multiple wives. It's no big deal. I was just no, that's not how Islam works. This is not the deal you get. You don't get your pick of the litter, and you can't just do something to this poor girl who has been nothing but amazing to you, and you're just taking her kindness for granted. And at first I was oh, he kissed he kissed his cousin the night before. Oh, that's really horrible. And like I thought it was just a kiss. I was like, well, maybe they can get past that, but that's horrible. And then the second I realized it was sex, I'm like, that is like such a huge betrayal, especially to a woman who is a virgin, who literally has been saving herself for marriage with someone that she is trusting. And that's a big deal for a
Disgusting.
Muslim Arab, woman to like wait on her wedding night to have sex for the very first time, and then she finds out that the love of her life had sex with someone the night before that she had in all of her wedding pictures. That is so like infuriating. I can't even
Vile.
imagine.
And wouldn't there have been a conversation before they even got married about whether or not multiple wives was something that they wanted? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like that's not the kind of thing you talk about after the wedding, right? Like,
No. It's just
Well,
an
I think
excuse, a convenient excuse to get out of a situation he didn't want to confront. And that's where I think he's a boy and not a man, because a man does not do that. You're a child if you do that. You need to have the emotional intelligence and the integrity to keep your word and to have some morality in this situation. Like have some responsibility. Like you can't just string people around and use them for whatever you need whenever you might need it and just be so wishy-washy and flaky. It's just not
Well,
fair.
and also Mina making the religion look false, like to people that don't know about Islam watching this are like, oh, then they can have 4 wives. Then it
Yeah.
goes back to what,
It's a cop
the
out.
protesters were saying. Prophet Muhammad is a pedophile because, he had 4 wives and a lot of them were underage, but people only lived till they were 30. So I think there is a deeper conversation that really let me down from this show, is that there was a platform to talk about Islam in a positive way, and I don't think that we did.
Technically, only one of the wives was underage, and she was married to him in order to protect her. But that's a long story, neither here nor there. Let's
Right, it is.
discuss the concept of the actual ceremony, the Khatib, which happened, and we had this ceremony happen, and basically it's where Sheikh Malik is there responsible for the bond of marriage from Zainab to Ramy. What were your thoughts quickly on the marriage ceremony, Mina?
It was so beautiful, but I couldn't fully enjoy it because I just see Zainab in all of her like beauty and how pure and like lovely she looks and how happy she looks to be marrying this one person that she thinks the world of. And then Ramy looks so happy. Here he is again, sucked into La La Land, forgetting that his cousin is in the audience watching this entire thing. So yeah, I was like, this beautiful day is tainted because of your lack of integrity. Like, come
Yes,
on, man.
we know where you're coming from. Amir, yes.
I have nothing to add because the whole wedding was a sham.
It seemed to be a sham. Nikki, did you think of it as a sham as well?
I felt like everybody was so beautiful, and like just all the cuts of all the beautiful faces, and all I kept thinking was, this is all gonna melt. This is gonna be destroyed. It's gonna be, and yeah, so it was bad.
I saw a lot of beautiful people as well. I did see a very sad Dina, and I saw a very confused Ramy. He went through with it, but we knew it wouldn't last. Of course, we get the consummation talk after the fact, after Ramy has relations with Zainab, and Zainab leaves. Sheikh Malik is there in the morning to say good morning to Ramy and literally sees him without clothes on. What were your thoughts on the Sheikh Malik confrontation, Nikki Bailey?
Okay, so I knew he was gonna be there. I knew it. I just was like, I said to my partner, her dad gonna be in the chair. I knew it. What I was concerned about was, how will this man who is so deeply rooted in his spirituality and the mysticism and the beauty and mystery of his faith gonna manage this moment where any other father would be whooping ass? So I was
How did you think he
super
handled it?
super impressed. I when he went into the bathroom, I was like, yep, well, here, handle your do what you gotta do, try to like get yourself together, whatever. I really thought up until he left, I thought he was gonna punch him. And even when he was saying F you, Ramy, like even that was just like this man wanted to do violence. And the fact that he didn't is a testament to me of not only like was that his faith and his relationship with God was stronger than his anger. And that to me is the message. Like people think of Muslims as terrorists and angry, blah blah blah, blah, but they don't think of but to me I was like, no. Islam is a really serious religion, and people who are taking it really seriously, they're about this peace period, this peace situation.
About their
So
peace.
like to me, it was like a beautiful moment to show, like, no, this is the response of a deeply spiritual Muslim man.
It was extremely beautiful. We heard the sentence, the rest of the world exists so that you can reflect on it and protect yourself. Amir Yas, what were your thoughts on that scene?
I mean, it's such an eloquent way to say you're a big asshole. I mean, let's be honest. Like, I think Sheikh is amazing. He's so eloquent with his words. And he really, like Nikki said, he could have just punched him out. And it looked like a scene from Killing Eve. I thought he was just going to slit his throat. And listen, we could not blame him because Ramy took something from his daughter that she can never get back. And I know I'm not trying to be dramatic. Like, I'm not a virgin, but it's like, it can be a very big thing, especially in Middle Eastern culture and being, Muslim. So I just think that he just really messed up, and then just blaming the Western culture, being, this is how Westerns are. I just could not with Ramy.
He tried it. You shoot, you shoot, you score. You shoot, you score. Mina, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Ramy deserved that. I mean, for Mahershala Ali's character to say all of that with such restraint, and for him to even say F you at all, like, that's how you know he had it. And for Ramy to be like, I just need your help, man. I just need your help. What kind of help do you need? Help yourself.
Right.
You don't have someone who's just going to save you every single time. You are accountable for yourself. God gave you free will. Like, in the Quran, like, Allah gave you free will to do whatever you want, and you must face the repercussions of your actions. You don't just get a get out of jail free card. This isn't like you go and you confess and it's like, okay, you're good. No, this is not how it works.
Yeah. So we get this confrontation, of course. Ramy is now without a wife, goes home, doesn't want to let his family know, has a conversation with Amani, and Amani basically gives him a similar speech from the other direction. What were your thoughts on that quickly, Amir Yas?
I just felt like, again, she was coming from a bit of a holier than thou energy as well. They both messed up. It takes two to tango. I don't really have time for her. So that's all I have to say about that.
Nikki.
Not a fan.
It made me think of this line from the movie When Harry Met Sally. She says, I am not your consolation prize. And that's what came to mind for me.
Strong. Mina?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like, what, you're just going to go back to her every time things aren't working out because she's like the little, like, carrot that's dangling in front of you that you need to have? If you felt that way, then that's your person. That's the person you make things work with. That's who you pursue. Even if it's difficult, even if it's taboo to be with your cousin, that's what you go for if that's what you want. You don't not do it, come here, move on and find someone else, and then just tiptoe halfway. And when she comes back, you just completely back out on your commitment to your new person. That's not how it works.
It's just messy and sloppy. It's just,
It was
trash.
And we saw that he was triggered, of course, when Shadi brings up feelings for Dina, but then backtracks and says, I know it's disgusting. She's my cousin. I'm sorry. And we still see that they go to the Apple store. And we end where we least expected, in Dennis's car with Boomer, where now we are listening to the tape of the Quran that was left by Dennis. We learned that Allah asks you to come with a clean heart. Truly, God loves those who turn unto him in repentance and loves those who purify themselves. He was a hidden treasure, loving to be known, so he created creation so they would know him. Those are the words we end with the continuation of those of that direction. How did we all think the show ended, Mina?
I actually loved how it ended. I loved how it was really messy. And once again, like, this is what Ramy Youssef does so masterfully well, is like this juxtaposition between halal and haram, clean and dirty, sinful and pure. He does this again and again. And in that very final scene, we see him listening to that tape about coming clean and being pure, and he is literally sitting in the car in which that dog Boomer shat in for what? How many days was that dog alone for? That car was
2 days.
absolutely filthy.
Mm.
Absolutely filthy, feces infested place, and here he is completely dirty both physically and in terms of the sins that he has committed, coming and listening to that tape with a clean heart. I thought it was beautiful.
It was. I also agreed. It was beautiful. Amir Yas, what were your thoughts?
I knew that because we didn't see the car. I knew the car was going to come back, but I didn't know in what iteration. But I love that even when he did tell him, like, that guy died, that, Dennis punched out, he was like, well, he hated Muslims. He missed it. Like, the point is that at the end of the day, Ramy just missed the whole Sufi path. He missed it. Like, he was on the path, but it was all BS, and he just missed it. So I wanted to feel sorry for him in that moment, like at the end in the car, but I was like, you deserve that. And like, I kind of don't want to hear from you again. I'm good.
Sheikh said to Ramy in the hotel room, he said, humility is understanding when something is beyond your capacity. And I don't think that Ramy gained any humility, even by the time he's sitting in the dog poop filled car, listening to the Quran on CD. I don't know that his heart was clean. I don't know that he was listening or coming with humility. I felt like this is just like a little sad sack story, and tomorrow he's going to have a whole list of excuses for why his life isn't working again. And I'm mad at Ramy, and I can't wait to see what happens in season 3, because I'm mad at him and I need him to do better.
Well, that's what we're going to leave off at, is hoping there is a season 3, and we can't wait for it. Until then, where can people find you if you want to be found? Mina Wahab.
Hey everybody, you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Mina Makes Magic. And I am super excited if there is a season 3. I really hope there will be. I think it definitely deserves a season 3.
I think so too. Amir Yas.
You can find me at Amir Yas, YASS _ at Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And it was a emotional roller coaster of a season, but we made it through.
We did make it through. Nikki Bailey, how about you?
You can find me at Nikki Bailey _ on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter as well. And it was a lovely time spending the day with you all.
Well,
same.
It was great being here, binge watching with all of you. Find me at I Am Tehran all across the board. IAMTEHRAN, and of course, hosting and paneling on a slew of other AfterBuzz after shows, because all of your favorite TV shows are my favorite TV shows too. Until we have some more Ramy, we will be back for season 3. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun, but we have to go play in the sun. Bye, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your life. Until Ramy.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.